Good morning, friends, family, YouTube subscribers, all of which I have very few of. But for those of you who are here watching, I appreciate you. It is CALLOUS Draft League playoffs, and we've got one of our 1v1 drafts. Not a coincidence that these are getting done before the team drafts, kind of the way that it goes. Just kind of banging these out in the order in which they're completing in real time. As you know, in the semifinals, we've got the orange team and the purple team, but I believe in both the previous ones it was orange on the left, and that is not the case today. It is Rager88 representing the purple team on the left-hand side, and then Blizihguh, and I think there's supposed to be an H in there. Let's go ahead and change that. Blizihguh, something like that. I don't know how to spell this dude's name. We're going to go with that. Either way, he is on the orange team, and he is our player 2. This is actually a rematch from week 2 of this tournament. These two played each other, and Blizihguh came out on top in that matchup. Rager thought that it was a little bit luck-based. There was a really relevant crit. I don't really remember the game. I'm sure he does if that was one of his losses that ruined a potential streak or whatever. But I know that he is out for revenge, since he did take the L to Blizz earlier, and obviously the stakes matter now even more than they mattered back in week 2. So let's get into the action. Like I said, Rager for purple on the left, Blizihguh for orange on the right, and the bands are as follows. Celebi. Okay. So far so good, so far so normal. Scar Marie. Snorlax. Everything's good and normal so far. However, let's note that neither T-Tar or Metagross have been banned here, and therefore I think Blizz should ban neither, because if you take one, your opponent just takes the other, so you might as well leave them both open. Therefore, when your opponent takes one, you could take the other. That's what I would do here, and that's what Blizz is going to do here. He doesn't ban T-Tar or Meta, which is unusual that either of those, never mind both of those, make it through bans. He's instead going to ban Blissey. So now we get to see what Rager views as the best Pokemon in the format. Like I said, T-Tar and Meta both still available. Clearly going to take one or the other. And he's going to take Metagross. Okay, so for Blizz, it's obviously going to be T-Tar and something. The something could be Zapdos, Arrow, Gengar, Fori, a bulky water, Regice. Regice is really going to be at a premium in this, given the amount of special walls that have been banned out, but I think I would go with T-Tar and Aerodactyl here, get that deadly double rock combo. Now, granted, that might prompt Rager to respond with double bulky water, but it's very hard for me to resist the rock attackers. So T-Tar, and he doesn't take T-Tar. He goes Gengar and Fori. Passing T-Tar back. Well, I appreciate you guys watching. Rager88 has won this draft. Thank you. And I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Later. I mean, I can do the rest of it if you want, but like, Rager won. It's over. He passed back T-Tar. He had a double pick, and he didn't take Tyranitar. Do you guys want me to narrate the rest, or it's over? My predictions from here on out. I don't care what happens to the rest of the draft. Rager won. Do you guys want me to do the rest? Okay. Well, shockingly, Rager88 is going to take Tyranitar when it gets passed back to him. Something that has not and should never happen. This is the first time in the whole tournament that I know of that this has occurred, and it should never, ever, ever happen. I agree with not banning T-Tar out once it was down to last ban and both Meta and T-Tar weren't banned. So, one or the other. You let him through and you get one or the other no matter what. And so he bans Bliss. That's fine. Opponent gets to pick between the two, takes Meta. You obviously always take T-Tar here. If you want to debate what you take it with, you can go T-Tar Zapdos, for example, to not only pad yourself against the bulky waters that they're going to want against T-Tar, but also to be good against Metagross. Keeps your options open, nice and diverse. Maybe T-Tar Zapdos is a good option there. You can debate what you take with it. Tar Zapdos is what makes sense in my mind. But passing back to, I mean, look, the whole video, unfortunately, is going to devolve to this. I'll do the damn draft, but, like, it's botched from the get-go. You're never supposed to make that pick. Gengar's good, Fori's good, neither one is better than T-Tar. Get real. What are we doing here? Okay, well, he passes back Tyranitar. I think I just puked in my mouth. And Zapdos. Next picks. So Milotic and Claydol here. I guess that Blizz is trying to monopolize the spinners here. He's got two of the best ones. Granted, I think the best one is still floating, and given the way that this is playing out, I would expect Rager to pick up the Starmie here. Question is, what does he pick it up with? And I agree with both of these picks. Gonna go with Regice and Starmie. And I think the Regice is like double good here. Not only do you have T-Tar and Metagross, two of its biggest threats, but also, like I said, Special Walls, super duper going to be at a premium here with the Lax, the Bee, the Blissey, all banned out. And I think Registeel should get picked up sometime sooner rather than later as well, because Special Walls that are worth playing are going to run out very, very quickly. They're already running thin. So Registeel does get picked up here for Blizz alongside Salamence. And Mence is a popular pick for the Milotic drafter, since obviously the opponent can't have it. I would expect a Swampert response. Everything pretty face up for Rager here. Aerodactyl, Swampert, I mean, those feel like the no-brainer picks. And I mean, this is one of the most overpowered, honestly, unrealistically so, overpowered round ones that I've seen in the whole damn tournament for Rager88. This should never happen, and I like his draft so much better than his opponents. It is not even fucking funny right now. But like I said, getting Meta and Tar together should never happen. And then all this other stuff. Zapdos is often a very early pick. He's got the Regice as well. Starmie's an early pick. Swampert he got late. Aerodactyl he got late. I mean, these are all super duper high picks, and just his whole entire squad is crazy loaded against a squad that's like fine on the other side, but it's just nowhere near the quality of what's over here on the left. If Rager somehow loses this draft, he should quit. It's over. Retire. Pack it up, pack it in. There is no coming back if you lose this draft. Moving over to the bans, starting with Blizz, keeping in mind that he is going to have the double pick after we get through these bans. He's going to ban Alakazam. He feels, probably rightfully, that his opponent is more equipped to handle special threats than he is. I would agree. Right now, Registeel is his only thing that's even close to a special wall, and it doesn't beat a Calm Mind, Fire Punch, Alakazam. So special threats are something I would very much be interested in getting out of the way. For Rager, he's going to remove Heracross. Interesting. He's in the camp. I just had this discussion with him yesterday, in fact. He asked me why I like Medicham better than Heracross. We went back and forth a little bit. He didn't agree with me. That's fine. I wasn't trying to get him to agree with me. I wasn't going to say anything at all. The only reason I even had the discussion is because he asked me. But he likes Heracross better than Medicham. I definitely do not share that opinion. But that seems to be the fighter that he is most worried about, and therefore he takes it away. I think if I were in his seat, I would be more concerned about Hariyama, looking at the Regice, looking at the T-Tar, especially the T-Tar. Hariyama is a way better counter to T-Tar than Heracross is. I don't even view Heracross as a Tyranitar counter. So to me, that would have been my ban, but maybe he still will. But either way, he views himself as slightly weak to fighters, which I can agree with. And in the case of the Heracross, rather than something like Hariyama, obviously Starmie would have to worry about Megahorn. So Blizz is being consistent with his bans as well. This ban also makes sense to me. Houndoom, same thing. Special threat that he thinks maybe his opponent deals with a little bit better than he does. Granted, unlike the Alakazam, the Milotic can handle the Houndoom in this case. But he's also protecting his Gengar, and he's got multiple fire weaknesses over here. So I could see why he wouldn't want to play against the Houndoom. So far, all of these bans for both players makes sense to me. And then Rager does, in fact, ban out the Hariyama. So order doesn't really matter as long as it ultimately gets banned, and it does. And I think that's a good ban as well, given the T-Tar alone, honestly. But the T-Tar and the Regice, more than enough reason to get rid of Hariyama. So we have a double pick now for Blizz. And this is a very early Umbreon. And I'm not sure if I like it or hate it, but it makes sense in context here. So he really needs a special wall because they are so bone dry at this point with the way that this draft has gone. And then he's also taking the second viable pursuit user away after banning Houndoom to protect his Gengar. So like I said, this is way earlier than most people pick Umbreon. A lot of the time it gets picked in round 3, or sometimes it doesn't even get picked at all, which seems egregiously wrong to me. But given the context of this draft, it's always so nuanced. It is always heavily based on what's already been taken and banned and such. Perhaps Umbreon this early is actually a good pick in this situation. I truly don't mind it. Now, it's weird given the amount of powerful things. Medicham, Dragonite, Gyarados still floating, but like I said, context considered, I really don't mind the Umbreon here. I maybe would have pushed that a round or two, at least a round, to pick up, like I said, like a Dragonite or a Medicham or something to that effect. But I think he's got the right idea grabbing Umbreon earlier than people normally do in this specific draft. As far as the Raikou, yeah, I mean, Regice may or may not beat it. If it has Psych Up or S-Toss, it will. If it doesn't have those things, it won't. But other than the Regice, the Raikou looks pretty good into most of Rager's team. I think it's a good threat here, and I think round 2, mid to high round 2, is generally where Raikou correctly belongs, rather than all these drafts recently where we've seen it go in round 1, which I think is too high. But this is a fine spot for Raikou, so I have no problem with these picks. On the flip side for Rager, gonna grab Medicham, my man, and also Jolteon. So Medicham double duty, not only a good poke, but again, he is incentivized with the tower, with the Regice to take fighters away from his opponent. Medicham I see being pretty reasonable here. It can threaten the things that are normally decent against fighters, like Gengar, like Doll. Also, fighters are good against Umbreon, obviously. And there's the Registeel sitting there. So I think Medicham, as it basically always is gonna be some level of good or better. Jolteon, sure. Milo on the other side, Gengar on the other side. Opponent just took a Raikou. This is probably, again, about the right time, mid to high round 2 for Jolteon, rather than the round 1 pick that it's been recently. So we're going to get a little bit funky here. I don't know that I agree with these picks, so we're going to go with Blizihguh, which, sure, we'll talk about that one. But here's the one that really stands out to me. This is far too early, in my opinion. Lantern is just a role player glue. Lantern is, if you pick it at all, and it doesn't need to be picked in every draft, and in fact, it is not even picked in most drafts, but if you're going to do the whole Lantern thing, to me, it is exclusively, always, a round 3 Pokemon. I would never round 2 Lantern. I just wouldn't. It just isn't good enough. As far as why he would pick the Lantern here, it is Volt Absorb against Double Electric on the other side. It does threaten the Starmie. It does threaten the Aerodactyl and the T-Tower, but remember those things threaten it as well. Same thing, it's okay against meta. You can T-Wave it, you can Thunderbolt it, Surf it, whatever, but you can also get EQ'd. Lantern doesn't seem amazing in the matchup, but it doesn't seem terrible either. It's okay. It has its niche. It has its purpose. But this is simply way too early. There's absolutely no way that Rager was about to take Lantern. No chance. If you're worried about it getting banned out, if you absolutely must take Lantern, you take it all the way down here with the last pick. But I think there is an absolute 0.0% chance that with these next 4 picks, Rager88 was going to grab Lantern. I think it's absolutely 0% that was going to happen. So this feels like a wasted pick to me, and this feels way too early. I don't even think Lantern's that good. Not a Pokemon that I'm ever excited to have. It does have, like I said, a niche purpose, some very specific things that it counters, but I think he could have easily, I mean, he for sure could have gotten it at the bottom of round 2 if he really, really wants it, but I would have pushed it even further than that. I think he could have very, very likely got it in round 3, which is where it belongs. So I don't like that pick at all. I think it is way too early for a niche role player, C tier, C minus tier Lantern. As far as the Blizihguh, that's a bit more sensible. Metagross, T-Tar, Regice, all threatened. Swampert potentially if it has HP Grass. Now granted, Zapdos, Jolteon, Starmie, Aerodactyl, those things do get the better end of Blizihguh, and there is sand here, so maybe reversal strategy is not as good, not as safe, but Blizihguh doesn't necessarily have to be reversal, and as with any Mon and something that theoretically counters it, in this format there's only a 1 in 3 chance that they actually play against each other, so I don't think it's the end of the world. The Blizihguh pick is fine, even if it doesn't blow me away. I still don't think I like it better than Dragonite or Gyarados that are both still floating, but it offends me far less than the Lantern. That I think is blatantly wrong. Speaking of Gyarados and Dragonite, that seems like quite the double pick. Gyarados and Dragonite scooped up here for Rager88. That seems far more powerful than anything that Blizz has taken so far in round 2. And I cannot emphasize enough the degree to which I think Rager is destroying Blizz in this draft and just has overwhelmingly better Mons quality as a whole with where we are right now. Now, Blizz is going to get 2 sleepers here. I think these 2 Mons have both been overperformers, Jinx and Miltank, respectively. We've seen Jinx sweeps. In fact, we've seen Jinx 6-0s. And likewise, we have seen Miltanks curse Miltanks, an unusual set, get it done at the end of the game by itself. So these are interesting picks. As far as neutralizing the Miltank, the Skarm is banned, so that helps. You've got the Gengar, so that helps. There is an Intimidate on the other side. There are some good normal resists, the Metagross, the T-Tar. There is Metacham. So Miltank is not invincible if you're trying to sweep with it, but it's always a good Gloomon. You do have Thick Fat to resist the Regice, which you're going to be generally pretty safe against. You're also taking a Thick Fat user while you're picking up Jinx, so that also makes sense to me. Miltank's fine. I can't think of anything blatant at this point, the way the Gyarados, the Dragonite, and the Metacham, which somehow all ended up with Rager, were still floating anymore. I can't think of something like that you gotta take it. So Miltank seems fine here. It's one of the many glue options that you could take, and as you guys are all well aware, it's a Pokemon that I'm definitely fond of. Jinx, I feel like we haven't seen it as much in the last round or two. People still, I think, underappreciating it. It is definitely, like I said, at least a round 2 pick, so at least it gets picked up accordingly in this draft. But we have seen Jinx do a lot of work in this format, especially in sandless games. That thing can really go wild. Some teams do not have an answer for it. So that's a Mon that I like, and that could just steal a game for Blizz. And frankly, like I said, with where we are in this draft, I think he's going to need to steal games, but that's the kind of poke that can definitely do so. So double bulky water being picked up for Rager. He is both filling out his bulky water lineup, Vaporeon and Slowbro, and also cutting his opponent off. So he's got Starmie, Swampert, Vaporeon, Slowbro. Won't need a bulky water for the rest of this. On the other side, there's only Milotic. If you want to count Lantern, fine. I don't count Lantern because bulky waters generally want to switch into things like Salamence, like Flygon, like Dragonite, whatever, and deal with them and be a check to them. But Lantern does not because of that crippling Earthquake weakness. So yes, Lantern is technically bulky and is technically a water type, so I guess by literal definition it is a bulky water, but it does not function as a bulky water in the context that I mean it. So as far as I'm concerned, 3.5 bulky waters for Rager, only 1, the Milotic, for Blizz. And I think it's good to choke his opponent out because whatever the bulky water options are that are left, Blastoise probably the best among them, but they're definitely worse than what has already been taken. You've got like Blastoise, Lapras, Slowking, things to that effect. Definitely not as good as Swampert, Vaporeon, and Slowbro, respectively. Rounding out this round for Blizz, he's going to go with Sceptile into an opponent who just took double water. Makes sense to me. And then he's also going to grab Porygon 2, and I will do my usual immediate trace check. Right now, there are seemingly 2 good targets. You are tracing Volt and Water Absorb, respectively. Not bad, but not world-beating. But Porygon 2, in this context, is going to be a bulky water, and Blizz definitely needs one. If you're willing to count Porygon 2 as a bulky water, which I generally do, then it is most definitely the best bulky water remaining, in my opinion. Sceptile seems reasonable here. There's quite a few grass weaknesses, actually. The T-Tar, the Starmie, the Swampert, the Vaporeon, the Slowbro, and then it can randomly have things like Thunder Punch for Gyarados, or Focus Punch for Regice, Aerial Ace, if you want, for the Metacham. That's not as good, but you can have that. Hidden Power Fire as needed. It seems like a reasonable threat, and it's a fast Mon, and Blizz, I think, if he's to win, is going to have to be really fast and really aggressive, because he just does not have the Mon's quality or the sturdy core pieces to effectively stall out his opponent, so he's going to have to go aggro here. I would like to see him pick up something like a Glalie down the line and really, really commit to the aggro plan, but we'll see how he envisions this going. Over to the bands as we approach the third and final round. Rager, Steelix. Fair enough, protecting his Electrics and his Aerodactyl. Again, missed opportunity. Not clear why Blizz didn't grab that at some point. But double Electric and Aerodactyl is exactly when you want to take Steelix. Rager is wise to recognize that and remove it from the pool. So I 100% agree with that ban. Blizz is going to go for Moltres. He has been banning and/or taking fire types. Currently, he is the only one who has touched fire types at all. Rager has neither picked nor banned one. He apparently doesn't see them as good or as important into his opponent as Blizz seems to think that they are, but Moltres is going to be removed. And Rager, along similar lines, this ban also makes sense. Removes Flygon from the pool, not only protects his T-Tar and to a lesser extent his Metagross, but also his Electrics. So if you're the T-Tar drafter and the double Electric drafter, you don't want to play against Flygon. Straightforward and sensible to me. And Blizz, pretty consistent with this. Really not interested in playing against fire types. He spent his last 3 bans all in a row. Houndoom, Moltres, Charizard. Wants fire types to not be there. I'm not sure. He doesn't even seem that weak into them. Like, again, yeah, like the Registeel and the Fori, but like, Milo handles them. Raikou can handle them if you go bulky. Lantern can handle them. If you're going to pick stupid Lantern, might as well put it to use. You've got your thick, fat Miltank. He seems overly worried about fire types, in my opinion. The Houndoom ban I liked and agreed with because it was a threat at the time and because you're protecting your Gengar, so that part's fine. But I'm not sure about the Moltres and the Charizard. They are good Mons. They are among the better Mons remaining, but are you really, truly that weak to those guys? I don't know that you are. I feel like Blizz, especially the Moltres, because, like, I mean, the Charizard with Focus Punch makes it a little weirder. Makes, like, Miltank, for example, not as much of a counter, but I don't think he's that weak to Moltres. I think he's kind of overestimating or overvaluing his fire weakness. I think he can generally handle that stuff, but maybe with the bulky waters largely choked out on the other side, and bulky waters obviously being generally good counters to fire mons, maybe that's part of the reason that he feels so scared of them right now and just doesn't want to deal with it. So we go over to the third and final round. Like I said, I feel like Rager overwhelmingly winning this draft as we go into this round. He's going to go with Arcanine and Venusaur. I don't actually know if he wanted the Arcanine or if he views it as that amazing or if it's just like picking up on the fact that Blizz really doesn't want to play against fire for whatever reason. But I am a big Arcanine fan, and that is going to give him the 2-1 advantage in the Intimidate War. Should we get into more fighters, we do still have things like Breloom, Machamp, what have you, floating in the breeze. Arcanine is going to be a good counter to Blaziken. It's going to be reasonable against Sceptile, obviously a threat to the Fori and the Registeel. And one of my favorite things to try to do with Arcanine is to use it to wall Gengar, because it's obviously Will-O-Wisp immune, resists Ice Punch, and if you build it bulky, it can take Thunderbolts all damn day, especially not in sand, and you can make that happen by simply not pairing it with the T-Tar. I'm a big Arcanine fan. Extreme Speed is also relevant. I really think that Mon is quite good. I think I have it in B+ on my personal tier list. Big Arcanine fan, round 3, wonderful value. I think that was a great pickup. As far as Weezing, he's on my mind because I think that guy should also get picked up. Another good one that's floating still in round 3, but it's not Weezing, it's Venusaur, fellow poison type. That guy also seems reasonably good. We've got Milotic, Claydol, couple grass weaknesses, Lantern, couple grass weaknesses, Leech Seed always good, and I don't see too many things on the other side that threaten Weezing, or God,
I can't get him out of my head. He's so handsome. That threatened Venusaur. And no, Weezing is not the next pick. I'm not looking ahead. He's just on my mind for some reason. But Venusaur, I think, relatively safe against the other side. There's obviously always going to be some things. The Jinx, the Salamence, what have you. But generally speaking, pretty good pick. And again, protection for the double electric, since obviously grass types, which Venusaur is, not Weezing, is going to resist electric. So on the other side, not Weezing, it's going to be Espeon and Smeargle. Okay, huh. I'm not going to lie, I wasn't expecting probably either of those. Let's see. Not sure what the thought process is with the Espeon. I don't know that Psychic blows me away as an attacking type here. You've got Meta, Cheetar, Regice, Starmie, Slowbro, a lot of things that can handle it. And I don't see many Psychic weaknesses either. In fact, there were 0 until just a moment ago when he picked up the Venusaur. And then as far as the Smeargle, I mean, sure, but like, if you just want a Spiker, aren't both Cloyster and Glalie still floating in this draft? I find that unusual. I don't know. I don't get the thought process on either of these picks, but that's what he took. Speaking of Cloyster or Glalie, it's going to be the Cloyster pick for Rager here. And additionally, Regirock, which is insane, crazy town value for round 3. A lot of people view that as a top 15-ish Pokemon in the format. I am inclined to agree. Getting it in round 3, something that shouldn't happen. It's better than many of the picks on both sides that came before it. So crazy value to get Cloyster and Regirock this late. Far, far, far better than Espeon and Smeargle. As far as the Regirock specifically in this matchup, I don't see too many rock weaknesses for Blizz, but it doesn't matter. It's just overall way too good of a poke to still be floating this late. And then Cloyster is going to be the second rapid spinner for Rager. See if he picks up a third at some point. Blastoise or Donphan, probably the two best that are remaining. There's also the Armaldo option, which is generally less appealing, with both Lax and Celebi banned out. But that's a thing that you can take. Hey, it's Weezing. That's cool. It is Weezing, who was definitely not picked earlier, and Donphan. So that is going to be the third rapid spinner for Blizz if he's worried about spikes on the other side, which he doesn't overly need to be. Rager does only have the one spiker, and in fact he had 0 prior to the most recent pick, but he did grab 1. The Donphan pick I do like anyway, though, just as a way to deal with the Cheetar and to a lesser extent the Metagross. It also is pretty good against Aerodactyl. You could roar it out, you can use counter, whatever the case may be. So against the Cheetar and the Arrow alone, that to me merits a Donphan pick. And Weezing is good against the same things to a lesser extent. Obviously, Metagross, for example, can go mixed and just click Psychic. Cheetar isn't going to have Psychic, but it can just have Crunch or something, which hits the Weezing pretty good. But generally speaking, against those Mons, Metagross, Tyranitar, Aerodactyl, Weezing is where I want to be. It's also good against fighters, and it's just good in general. So I do think, finally, in a world of questionable picks all the way around for Blizz, I do think both of these picks were good and do help him out, but he's so damn far behind. I don't know, man. I don't know what he could take. Probably nothing at this point to salvage this in my eyes. Rager is going to go with Entei and Dugtrio. Yeah, I mean, the Entei seems okay. It's never a Mon that excites me, but Blizz over and over again has indicated that he is worried about fire attackers. It's probably the best one still available given what has been taken and banned out, so if you want a fire attacker, I guess Entei is your guy. Not a Mon that I'm ever enthused about, but it's playable, so here we are. The Dugtrio pick, a bit of a mixed bag here. On one hand, there are things like Raikou, like Blizihguh, like Lantern, like Jinx on the other side. It's definitely good against those. On the other hand, you're also picking it into Porygon 2, into Gengar, into Salamence, into Weezing, and what have you. I could take or leave the Dugtrio here. I think if you baton pass to it, it's a lot better. So maybe we'll see the Zap Dug combo here. but it's so late in the draft, and there are enough things that you could just insta-delete with Dugtrio to where I do give the thumbs up to this Dugtrio pick. I'm not always hating on it. It's time and place, and I think this is a fine Dugtrio pick. On the other side, Slowking and also Dusclops. Fair enough. Bulky waters at this point, man. Slim pickings. I probably personally prefer Blastoise, regardless of the spin component. Even if you're not having it run rapid spin, I probably still prefer Blastoise to Slowking, personally. But he needs a bulky water, one way or another. So Slowking is going to have to suffice. It is not as good as the bulky waters on the other side, but it does have T-Wave. It does have a diverse move pool. If he's trying to lean a little more in the aggro direction, then I think Slowking, given the options available, is going to have to fit the bill. Dusclops going to protect spikes. He does have two spikers in the Fori and the Smeargle, so he'll pair it with one of those and try to block the Starmie or the Cloyster or whatever from doing its thing. We swap over to the other side, and interestingly, Rager does not take Glalie or a Rapid Spinner, both of whom were fresh in my mind. He's actually instead going to go with Clefable, which we haven't seen picked very often, and also Gardevoir, which has very much been flavor of the month in the last round or so. And I'll nitpick that like I said, to me, I would probably have gone like Glalie plus Blastoise just to be really, really safe. I think I pick up the third spinner there, and I definitely think I pick the second spiker up there. I mean, the spiker might not be amazing into an opponent who already has three rapid spinners, but keep in mind by not taking Glalie here, you can let your opponent take it, which I'm not as excited about. The question, of course, becomes what would you give up in order to do that? I think the answer is not much. Can you live without a Clefable? Probably. I like Clefable. I think it's underrated in this. I think it should be picked more often than it is, which currently is like almost never. It's like Blissey Jr. and Miltank Jr., but it's fine, and it's pretty diverse. I like Clef, but we'll see if it ultimately ends up getting played as a minor nitpick. Not thrilled about Entei or Clefable or Gardevoir. To me, I think, like I said, Glalie and probably another spinner should have been grabbed in there, but there's very little to criticize about Rager's draft, which has been overwhelmingly better than Blizz's draft. As far as the Gardevoir, quick trace count, Claydol comes to mind. Is that it? Yeah, I guess there's not too much else. But Gardevoir is a diverse threat, without a doubt, and he can customize that as he sees fit to try to harass Blizz based on what's been shown and what's still floating in the pool. And finally, the last pick for Blizz is going to be also not Glalie. Disagree. So Glalie is going to go undrafted in this, which is surprising to me. He's going to scoop up Ludicolo, a Mon that I'm never too excited about, but Grass Mons do have merit against Rager, and he did pick up a couple additional grass weaknesses, the Cloyster, the Regirock, the Dugtrio in this round, though he did pick up grass resistances as well in the Arcanine, the Venusaur, and the Entei, so I guess we can call it a wash. It's also kind of sort of vaguely a special wall, which at this point, he needs all the help that he can get, but it's never a Pokemon that I am all that enthused about. Granted, there is only the one grass on the other side for Rager, so generally speaking, Leech Seed is always going to find a target. As far as predictions, I don't think I can fool you guys. You already know I think Rager dominated this draft, and I would be very, very surprised to see him lose. I don't know if he's a better or worse player than Blizz. Based on what I've seen, I would lean that he's probably a better player than Blizz, but even if, for argument's sake, we assume that these guys were exactly equal as players, I would overwhelmingly favor Rager88's draft. Having Metagross and T-Tar together should never, ever, ever happen. I'm not past that. That should just never, ever occur. That is an egregious blunder for Blizz to allow that to happen. But even somehow getting past that, I think the overall Mons quality is just such a discrepancy. If you take the top like 25, 30 Pokemon on the tier list, far, far more of them belong to Rager. He somehow has Meta and T-Tar. He's taking Metachams and Gyarados and Dragonites while his opponent is taking Lanturns. He's got far more bulky waters and better bulky waters. He's taking like round 3 Cloyster Regirock when his opponent is taking Smeargle Espeon. When I say it's close, it's close. And when I say I'm undecided, I'm undecided. A lot of the drafts have been like that. This is not one of those. This is a stomp, and I would be very, very surprised if Rager did not come away with the W here. In fact, I would think something went egregiously wrong, and Rager is going to be, well, a Rager if he somehow manages to lose here. But I give Blizz nothing beyond a puncher's chance. It's Pokemon. You can crit your opponent into oblivion. You could freeze your opponent into oblivion. Bullshit can happen, but pending an absolutely one-sided avalanche of bullshit, I've got Rager winning this one in one of the least close drafts that I have seen all tournament long. Let me know in the comments what you think. I think it's a stomp, and I can't believe he passed back the Tyranitar. Appreciate you guys watching. I will see you in the next video.